What's up, Couch fam? For those that don't know, my name is Hussein the Brain, and these are my Week 2 waiver wire ads. Every Tuesday, we come out with a new waiver wire video, pickups at every single position, ranked and extensive. It includes kicker, defense, also some deep waiver wire ads for those that are in 14-team and 16-team leagues. Let's go on to the waivers, starting with quarterbacks. We haven't seen that much from Jordan Love, but I was higher on him than most, and I wasn't disappointed. You're not adding him as your QB1. You don't expect him to be a top 5, top 10 QB anyways, and I think he's already proven himself to be good enough to add as a great backup QB or QB2 in Superflex leagues. Well, I mean, he's not on waivers as Superflex league, but you get what I mean. You're adding him as your QB2, and I've seen enough from him to show that, hey, this guy is good enough. I know he did face a terrible Bears D, but I still thought he looked good. Also, he'll be getting Christian Watson back fairly soon, maybe in a week or two from that hamstring injury. After that, don't worry too much about how I rank these guys. Mac Jones looks to be on a real offense finally. Maybe it's because they have a real offensive coordinator. He did very well his first week, over 300 passing yards. Brock Purdy and Derek Carr, rankings right there don't really matter too much either. I think both these guys are pretty good. So number 2, number 3, number 4, I think they're basically tied. And then we have Sam Howell, who I really liked coming into this year, and I still have high hopes for, but that team seemed pretty messy. Lots of unnecessary hits to the quarterback, lots of fumbles, and just a lot of weird, inconsistent play. But if they can get that fixed, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, as well as they have a good amount of depth at receiver if you're including the tight end and Gibson, got Curtis Samuel, lots of depth there. So I still have hope for Sam Howell. Sloppy week 1 performance though against the Cardinals, which their defense looks surprisingly good as well. And of course, everybody knows the big news. It's just horrendous. Aaron Rodgers on the 4th play of the Jets offense, he got injured. He's out for the year, which makes Zach Wilson a formidable pickup in Superflex leagues. To be honest, I'm not even going to put a claim in for Zach Wilson. I drafted 4 quarterbacks in my Superflex league, so I'm not even going to bother. I don't have too much faith in Zach Wilson putting up enough fantasy points to where I'm actually starting him in my Superflex spot. But if you are desperate, you forgot to draft a quarterback in Superflex, go get Zach Wilson. He is valuable in those type of formats where you start 2 quarterbacks. For running backs, my top 5 to 6 here is where you want to concentrate on. And yes, that means the Ravens backfield is one that I'm not putting any FAB in or not going to waste a high waiver claim unless I'm super desperate. You definitely want to get these top 5 guys, though. That's Tyler Algier. Yes, Bijan and Algier could both exist in this world. It's big enough on a team that is going to run the ball very well, right? Like the Jets, Falcons, like these teams could support 2 running backs for sure. They do it so well, and they're going to love to run the ball. Now that Rodgers is hurt, of course. Kenny Gainwell, he's a guy that I'd be pushing even harder, but he does have a rib injury. Just a guess. It is minor, but purely a guess. I don't know what the injury is. Today's walkthrough, he was absent. Yesterday, he was absent in practice, which they didn't really have a practice, but on the practice report. So he's not practicing yet. We'll see if he gets in a practice by Friday, which will mean a lot. Austin Eckler, also, I suspect a minor injury for Eckler. I believe it is a ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken, which makes Joshua Kelly a very important add in fantasy. If Eckler is out, I'd probably have to put Joshua Kelly at number 2 or number 1. But as of now, it doesn't really matter. He's still a borderline must add because we've seen that he is the de facto RB2. He is a valuable handcuff, and we kind of knew this, but now we have a confident confirmation in that he is a solid handcuff, very valuable in fantasy. Kind of lucky we added him in Throne before the game started, so we have Eckler's handcuff, and that's a very comfortable situation to be in. If you drafted Eckler, you might not have a lot of depth, and you're like, oh man, I hope he's okay. It's worrisome, as Eckler is one of the best fantasy running backs. Kyren Williams, this was a huge shock to me, because Kyren Williams sucked. I mean, I thought he was just the next Rams running back to get axed. But not only do they not have a lot of depth, and Kyren Williams just by default had to be thrown in there, he's actually not bad. He actually doesn't suck. So I am completely shocked. My Cam Akers stocks are just looking kind of depressing right now. It's a little bit sad. What did Akers get? Off the top of my head, I think he got 22 touches, like 22 carries or something like that. I know he got at least 20 carries. So he was still good, squeezed in a touchdown barely. Didn't get a lot of yards, didn't really do anything. And only 35% of snaps for Cam Akers. It's very worrisome. But there was a lot of worrisome stuff going on. Like, who else did you draft with Cam Akers, right? It was James Conner. It was Rashad White. I mean, those guys didn't necessarily do well. So it's like, all in all, it's not that big of a deal. It's only week 1. Still, go add a running back. You should be putting in a claim to add a running back no matter what. But Kyren Williams, again, 65% of snaps. He actually looked decent, and seems like Sean McVay liked him, and it worked. I mean, they won the game, so what the Rams did worked. So it's safe to expect them to do some similar things moving forward. Number 5, we have Roschon Johnson. And if you let this guy just remain unrostered, shame on you. Are you even part of the Couch family? What's going on here? I talked about him in my Dynasty videos. I talked about him in my redraft videos. You guys see me draft him. I'm telling you guys not to take Khalil Herbert. Not because Khalil Herbert sucks, but because Roschon Johnson is half the price and could be just as good, if not better. And we already seen it week 1. I mean, oh my God. I think he only got 5 carries. I believe 5 carries, but 6 receptions on 7 targets. Oh boy. Like, you gotta get Roschon Johnson. I don't know how he's not rostered. Very excited about him. I was very high on him as a prospect. I thought he was the 3rd best running back in this draft class. And at number 6, we have Jaylen Warren. Now, why he's kind of not in my like top 5, that tier that I kind of drew there, I'm drawing a tier line in after my top 5, is because these Steelers running backs are not going to have a ton of upside. It's just not that high octane, high scoring offense. It never will be. I'm going to say it like that. I'm not telling you that Kenny Pickett is absolute trash and the Steelers offense is absolute trash. I just don't see them as a top 5 offense. Probably not even top 10. I don't think they're going to get there. And you kind of need that type of upside if we want to see, when we start Steelers players, that they're going to be scoring touchdowns or that they're just going to be going off, and they're just not that. And on top of that, we have 2 running backs getting used. So 40% of snaps for Jaylen Warren. He's kind of the pass catching back. You know, you can generalize it like that. I know it's more nuanced, but just off that, if you're in a PPR league, you got him. On top of that, really good handcuff. Now, if Najee gets hurt because of this upside thing I was talking about, maybe Warren's not a top 5 running back, but he could be top 10. Let's just say, if Najee gets hurt, Jaylen Warren will be an RB1, a top 12 running back. Probably not top 5. Lots of people asking me, hey, what do I do about the Ravens running back situation? Which one do I add? Kind of like none. If you're in a 10-team league, stay away from this. It's not going to be good. There's not a lot of upside here because, again, it's kind of a similar type of situation, not necessarily like the Steelers. This is more of this offense has much more potential to be a high-octane offense, but you got Lamar Jackson who can run, and they're going to be throwing the ball. They got a lot of weapons here, and it's going to be a committee. So I do expect 3 running backs to be involved somehow, some way. Might not be Melvin Gordon. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to at least be 2 running backs. So Gus Edwards is the one that I want most. They love Justice Hill just based off how they didn't cut him, because he's just not a high IQ running back. He's just lame. But he is a home run threat. Like, if this guy puts it together, which he kind of did week 1, a little bit of a kind of like Kyren Williams, right? So, like, I'm comparing Kyren Williams to Justice Hill. Like, if this guy puts it together, he actually does have the tools. He's actually talented. He just, like, misses holes and does dumb stuff and just looks like a mess out there. But I guess Justice Hill does have more upside. It technically just has way more downside. And I've always been a Justice Hill hater ever since I've seen him in the NFL. Like, as a prospect, he was good. So, again, this is going to be messy. Like, I feel like the coach is going to trust Gus Bus, going to try to give Justice Hill the ball. Maybe Justice Hill lets us down and does some more dumb stuff, misses holes or fumbles or goes out of bounds when he's not supposed to, something weird like that. I suppose they are worth a $0 claim if you need a running back. Like, I am putting in a couple claims for these guys as like a backup option, right? They're not my like top 3, top 2 option on waivers on my waiver claims. Tajay Spears, number 8, 54% of snaps involved in the passing game. Now, even though he got snaps, this is kind of the outlier where snaps does equal fantasy points. In this case, it doesn't. But yeah, the Titans are a very weird team. They have a terrible quarterback. They have DeAndre Hopkins, and they have Derrick Henry. It's like, this is not an ordinary team. So even though he got the snaps, I don't see a lot of workload. Still, though, I mean, if you're considering picking up a guy like Jaylen Warren or something like that, I mean, Tajay Spears not really that far behind. Should be one of the top valuable handcuffs in fantasy football. And then in deeper leagues, we have Jerome Ford. He got 15 carries. That's something to note, although he didn't do anything with those carries. Got about 2.5 yards per carry. I didn't mean to laugh, but I mean, that's terrible. It's nowhere near what Chubb is going to be getting this year. Zach Moss should be returning fairly soon. I assume he'd be returning week 2. Maybe he returns week 3. But Evan Hall put on IR. They need help at that position. Did they just sign Jake Funk? I think they just signed Jake Funk, put Evan Hall on IR. Maybe they do sign also Kareem Hunt. We'll see. I would not pick up Kareem Hunt. That's just my opinion. I think he sucks, and he's expired. More running backs. Sean Tucker, another decent handcuff, not on a high-powered offense, though. And Ty Chandler, home run hit. You know, this is just more deeper league guys. For wide receivers, I have about, I'm going to say these top 3 guys are kind of tier 1. Everybody knows about Puka Nacua now. I am ashamed that I don't have him in more redraft leagues. I'm very ashamed of me. He was my number 1 guy I drafted in best ball. I drafted him 67 times, over $1,400 of entries with Puka Nacua. It just didn't work out. I didn't feel like he was worth a roster spot, but I was wrong. I mean, like, it is what it is. If I had a 20-round draft, I love Puka, but in a 16-round draft, I decided to ignore him. Now's the time. We're actually talking about spending some real FAB on Puka. I like it. 15 targets. It's no joke. I do not think this is a 1-week wonder, because you got 15 targets. Like, that's just not something you come up with in thin air, right? It's not the lucky touchdown. Like, I remember we saw some Cowboys wide receiver like 7 years ago score a touchdown on the first week, and he was just a 1-week wonder. You know, that was a big play touchdown. We're talking about some serious amount of receptions and targets here, and like I said, they won the game. So it wasn't like we went to Puka and that was stupid. It was like we went to Puka and he kind of dominated, and he was great, and he opened up the field for other guys. So I would love to put maybe 30% FAB on him or something like that. If I had to put a number on it, a lot of people keep asking me that. Nico Collins, number 1 wide receiver, number 1 target in the passing game for the Texans. obviously worth a roster spot. He's already rostered in most leagues, though, to be honest. Kind of similar thing with Jacoby Myers, rostered in about half leagues. He is in concussion protocol, however. After that, we have Kendrick Bourne, who was the number one receiver for the Patriots week 1. Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed, good deep threat. Derek Carr didn't look bad. Michael Wilson, I love this guy as a prospect and in Dynasty. Got 90% of snaps, but this offense is horrible. Unfortunately, Michael Wilson's probably going to suck this year just because of the quarterback situation and the offense as a whole. And I'm just going to read the rest off. Darnell Mooney, Tutu Atwell. Don't have a lot of faith in him, but he did look great week 1. Now, this is one I'm not sure of. Okay, I'm not sure how he's going to look moving forward. Cooper Kupp, he's probably going to be back like in 3-4 weeks. We'll see what's going on. Josh Downs, 7 targets. A little bit of a surprise for the Colts. Good wide receiver prospect. Another good draft pick for the Colts. Curtis Samuel was involved on the offense. And then we have in deeper leagues, Braxton Berrios, Jaden Reed, KJ Osborne, Allen Robinson. Deontay Johnson is hurt, by the way. Mac Hollins, Terrace Marshall Jr., Josh Reynolds, and Calvin Austin. Actually, some pretty good ads here that are late. Just like, I don't know when you're going to actually start these guys, right? We want good players that'll help us win. Like, those guys don't suck, but they're going to really be a wide receiver 4 or 5 at best. For tight ends, my tier is going to be the top 5. So if you need a tight end, try to get one of these top 5 guys. If not, I do have some really good depth ads. Luke Musgrave, upside is through the roof. Remember, this was a game where the Packers seemed like they were going to win from the beginning, and they had a lead, and, you know, it was a good team win for the Packers. I'm thinking in games where it's a little bit higher scoring, a little bit more of a shootout, or the Packers might need to throw a little bit more or run, take some more shots down the field or something. Luke Musgrave could get more targets, just more upside there. And it's not every week you play a trash team like the Bears, which is kind of looking like the worst team in the league, at least the bottom 3 team. So I want to see what happens when they face a team like the Chiefs or the Chargers, right? A team that might not have great defense, but a little bit of a shootout situation. Hayden Hurst, he's like the only receiver for the Panthers. Expect targets and expect red zone targets. Jake Ferguson looked awful, but it was a lot of concentration drops. And I mean, that game was weird, right? Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football were very weird games. Kind of the opposite, but the same amount of weirdness. 7 targets. This is huge, okay? So with tight end, I always say this 4 targets is mid. It's like, okay, we see that. 5 targets or more is good. And we got 7 targets, and 7 targets in a game where the Giants barely got a yard of offense. 40-0 game. In that type of situation, when the tight end's getting 7 targets, I really want to take note. This guy has a lot of upside. I wouldn't be scared to take him. Don't worry about people making fun of you. We're thinking like this is the next Kadarius Toney. Don't worry about that, man. You're getting 7 targets in an offense that could feature the tight end. They're willing to give him the ball even when they're up 40 points. It's something to note. And then we got Hunter Henry, who shocked me. He looked great. Definitely worth an ad. Zach Ertz, 10 targets. That's crazy coming off a huge injury at this age. He's going to be involved on this offense. We got a lot of quarterbacks who love to target him. So definitely get him. And then in deeper leagues, we have Mike Gesicki, who didn't look like trash. Kylan Granson, who's the tight end 1 for the Colts, while Jelani Woods is on IR at least. Logan Thomas, 8 targets. Durham Smith, he's been a meme that, hey, the Dolphins, their tight end 1 is still Smith, but 7 targets and Tua's looking great. It's something to note. Only really deep league ad. Adam Troutman could be worth an ad if Greg Dulcich misses time. Isaiah Likely, he only got like 1 catch. What a bust week 1. Donald Parham, this is super deep league stuff. And Noah Gray if Kelsey is still injured. For defenses to stream, try to get one of these top 4, I would say. Giants D going against the Cardinals, love it. Saints D going against the Panthers, love it. Panthers just won't have a they won't have a top 10 offense. I'll tell you that this year. Doesn't seem like it. Might not be a top 20 offense this year. Browns D going against the Steelers. Again, Steelers D. Steelers are a good team overall. Just they don't put up a ton of points. Bucks D going against the Bears. The Bears suck. And if you can't get one of those top four, go for the Broncos going against the Commanders. Colts D going against the Texans. Should be a low-scoring game where Colts are slightly favorited to win. Texans D going against the Colts. Low-scoring game, like I said. Steelers D, Commanders D, Cardinals D, or Bears D in what could be a low-scoring game against the Bucks. If you got the Bears D, you got to be in like a really deep, crazy league, by the way. We have a lot of great kickers for you guys. Jake Moody, I actually ranked him top 5 when my rankings came out, but he looked so rusty in the first preseason game, a little bit shaky in the second preseason game, and then he got hurt. So I ranked him like kicker 14. I dropped him all the way from kicker number 4 or 5 to kicker number 14. I got terrified, but it's just the first week jitters for him. He's back. I mean, he looks incredible, and any kicker on the Niners is going to be great. So Jake Moody is my number 1 kicker to add, and he's a kicker. What I really love about him, he's a kicker you can start every single week. And then Jake Elliott's kind of in the similar situation. I think Moody has a higher floor. Jake Elliott has put up some disappointing seasons and some good seasons as well in the past. So that's why I'm not ranking him as high. I think Moody has more upside. But Jake Elliott, man, you could pretty much start him any game. He's on a good team. Try to get one of those two. I know Jake Elliott's probably not available, but it really varies from league to league. Cameron Dicker, legit Dicker the kicker on the Chargers. Brandon McManus going against the Chiefs. Riley Patterson is a good streaming option against the Seahawks. Chad Ryland, I know he didn't put up fantasy points, but he's kind of in that similar boat as like Jake Elliott and Jake Moody. I feel like you can start him every single week. Patriot kickers almost always. I mean, it's very consistent. You very rarely see a Patriots kicker suck. I think since I've been, coming out with fantasy content, or at least the last 10 years, there's maybe been 1 or 2 years where Patriots kickers sucked in fantasy. And so, man, you're looking at like a 90% chance Patriots kicker is going to be good, and I'd bet on that. So Chad Ryland, a great pickup. Don't be scared of his fantasy points, and I love putting him on here because some people may waste a claim or spend FAB on a kicker, while you're going to be able to get a guy like Chad Ryland off free agency without even putting a bid easily, as long as there's no Patriot fans in your league. Number 7, Jason Myers. Number 8, Matt Gay in a good matchup. Number 9, Blake Group, however you say it. Rookie kicker, seems pretty good. I think he's the smallest player in the league, or one of the smallest players in the NFL currently. Number 10, Chase McLaughlin. And number 11, Kami Fairbairn. Pretty talented kicker, not on the best team, though not in the best situation, unfortunately. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys subscribe, and I do answer like 99% of questions. So if you do have a fantasy question, drop a comment below as a YouTube comment, and I'll get to it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.